Hi, I'm Ken Leon, Director of Equity Research at CFRA. And looking ahead to the presidential elections, we wanted to take a look at the what if. What if Biden becomes the next president? How will it change major industries? Today we have Garrett Nelson, Senior Analyst and lead in terms of the automotive industry. Clearly there are opportunities here. And Garrett, what do you see as the benefits or risk as it relates to measuring up Biden in a new administration?
Sure. Well, the first thing I would say about this that's important to understand is that the Midwest states that comprise the heart of the U.S. manufacturing industry, such as Michigan and Ohio, are also going to go a long way toward determining who wins the Electoral College. So both candidates are really campaigning heavily in those states and making some pretty lofty promises as they attempt to secure the vote of workers in those states. But in the event of a Joe Biden win, we think the companies that would really benefit are those with exposure to green and emission-free technologies such as electric vehicles. Biden has proposed new tax incentives, government purchases, and other measures aimed at benefiting EVs in particular, which he says will create 1 million new jobs that would be spread across the industry, from auto manufacturers to suppliers and infrastructure. He's also said that his primary intent with this plan is to benefit union workers. And in fact, the auto industry's largest union, the UAW, gave Biden its endorsement back in April. Obviously, the other thing to understand is that Biden has proposed raising the U.S. corporate tax rate from 21% to 28%, which is going to have a negative impact on earnings across the board.
So, Garrett, if we have the trifecta, which means Democrats win in the White House and they have control of Congress, would we see legislation, and what kind of impact would that have on fundamentals?
Sure. Well, Joe Biden hasn't released specific details regarding his proposals, the new tax incentives, but he has said they would be targeted incentives aimed at both increasing the supply and demand of electric vehicles. I think it's important to keep in mind that with all the attention surrounding Tesla and EVs in general, EVs still accounted for only about 2% of the total vehicles sold in the US last year. Biden has also proposed transitioning the 3 million vehicles that the federal government purchases regularly, such as buses, mail trucks, and police cruisers, from predominantly gas-powered vehicles to EVs that are manufactured domestically. Additionally, Biden wants the federal government to help build 500,000 additional EV charging stations and support research focused on battery technology. But the tax incentives are really what's going to move the needle and would likely take the form of tax credits to encourage consumers to purchase more EVs, and also tax benefits for manufacturers to produce more EVs. As far as what form any legislation might take, I think the Driving America Forward Act that was introduced in Congress in 2019 would likely act as a starting template and would expand the consumer tax credit for EVs. Under current law, consumers that purchase EVs are eligible for a $7,500 federal tax credit, which begins to phase out when a manufacturer sells a total of 200,000 EVs. And today, only 2 companies have hit that milestone. Those companies are Tesla and General Motors. The Driving America Forward Act bill would have allowed for an additional 400,000 vehicles per manufacturer to be eligible for a tax credit of up to $7,000 before that credit begins to phase out. So we think any bill would likely be similar, but the tax incentives could potentially be much more generous than that bill, which had bipartisan sponsorship in the Senate but didn't pass, especially if Democrats were also to take back the Senate.
So a Biden win could change the status quo, and the automotive industry is global. And wondering here, is there any puts and takes, whether it's imports or exports, US versus China, or perhaps imports from Europe? What would this look like with a Biden win?
Well, the biggest change to the status quo would probably be a shift in trade relations between the US and China. we think Biden would probably be less focused on trade with China as an issue compared to other issues. So the China phase one trade deal would probably fall through, and then the existing tariffs would expire one by one. So overall, I think the trade policy would be a lot less hawkish, and there would be fewer tariffs and fewer tariff threats, which would provide a little more predictability to the global industry backdrop. But there's no question China's auto industry has been hurt by the tariffs. So Chinese automakers would stand to benefit the most from their expiration. But looking at the global auto market, it's really become a lot more regionalized in recent years between Asia Pacific, Europe, and North America, which are all competing with each other to some degree. The most significant recent development that relates to the North American market was really the passage of USMCA, which went into effect on July 1st. And that really helped enhance the competitiveness of the North American auto industry on the global stage relative to NAFTA, which was passed at a time when China really wasn't a significant player in the global auto industry. And in many ways, NAFTA caused US auto production to really stagnate, and much of the manufacturing base really shifted to countries such as Mexico and China, where labor was a lot cheaper. And in fact, if you look back to 1994, the year that NAFTA was passed, the United States accounted for 25% of global auto production. Fast forward 25 years to 2019, and US market share had been more than cut in half to only 12%. But with the USMCA having gone into effect and it being a 16-year trade agreement, we don't see any threat to that deal from a Joe Biden win.
So for a quick takeaway in terms of a Biden portfolio, what stocks would be best positioned for the election of Joe Biden?
Well, we think the Detroit Three would probably be the biggest winners because those are the manufacturers with largely union workforces. And again, Biden has said he wants any legislation to really benefit union labor. Tesla's workforce, of course, is 100% non-union. And you can rest assured, I think that there will be some heavy lobbying by traditional automakers that's taking place behind the scene to ensure that their interests are represented. And to be candid, traditional automakers are really feeling threatened by Tesla, whose market cap now almost equals the rest of the industry combined. But we think Tesla would probably be a net beneficiary as well, as an electric pure play that would benefit from new tax credits and also the construction of the 500,000 additional charging stations. So GM, Ford, Tesla, and Fiat Chrysler would all be winners, we think, but Fiat Chrysler probably less so because they've made less of a pivot toward EVs and are also in the process of merging with the European automaker PSA Group. The other winners are auto suppliers with greater exposure to electrification and green technologies. That list includes Visteon, Borg Warner, and Aptiv. The tickers are VC, BWA, and APTV, respectively.
Great for that rundown in terms of a Biden win. And to get more on Garrett's research in the automotive industry or CFRA research at large, particularly our thematic research on a Biden election, if it happens, go to www.cfraresearch.com. Thank you.